Welcome back to This Week in Formula One and DRS Dispatch. This week is the week of the 20th of April 2026, and it is the week before the grand return of Formula One after the 4-week break. Similar to last week, there's not really a whole lot for me to talk about this week, though we do have some stories inside and outside of Formula One. So let's just get right into it, starting off with our first story. So, starting off with our first story of this week, we have F1 returning to the Nürburgring for a Pirelli tyre test with Mercedes McLaren. So, if you're unfamiliar with the Nürburgring, it is a track in Germany, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and it is widely used for endurance racing, and is quite the famous track, having existed within the racing sphere outside of Formula One, and inside of Formula One in the past for quite a long time now. So it's quite a well-renowned track, though I think it was removed from Formula One quite a little while ago for being somewhat dangerous. Though possibly this could mark the return of the Nürburgring. I'm not sure. I probably wouldn't bet on it. It was probably just the only circuit available, so they thought, hey, why not? But yeah, obviously, it was another Pirelli tyre test. These are pretty common. Pirelli testing more of their new compounds with Mercedes and McLaren, so it's probably good for George, Kimi, Oscar, and Lando to get back out on the track. Some photos that we can look through here of they're all doing some Pirelli tyre testing ahead of this next week's Miami Grand Prix. So, exciting. So let's go on to our next story, where we have F1 Academy champion Dorian Pin, who is learning a lot in her new role as the reserve driver for Mercedes, a reserve and development driver for Mercedes, as she continues to work towards reaching Formula One. And yeah, obviously I think this is amazing for Dorian. She's quite the impressive driver, and she has a really good relationship with Toto Wolff. So yeah, I think it's really amazing for her. She got some time out on track, I think last week, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I think it's really cool for her. It's amazing that she's able to get out there and get going. And obviously, I think it's ridiculous that there's currently no women in Formula One at all, really, and it's kind of mainly male dominated. And yeah, I hope we get to see her take the leap sooner rather than later. So yeah. So obviously, next story, let's talk about Stefano Domenicali finally discussing the, of course, changes that will probably be happening to the rules and regulations. I thought we were going to see some of that happen over the course of this kind of 4-week break, but to my knowledge, that hasn't occurred. But it seems like there is some discussions around trying to find the right adjustments to regulations, which I think is reasonable. Certainly there's been a lot of questioning around the safety of these regulations and kind of the viability of them from a racing perspective, though it seems like the Formula One sphere and the FIA is trying to find the right adjustments, which I think is good. But he's confident that everything is going in the right direction, which is also good. So we will see how things change. I don't think much will change going into Miami, if I had to guess. But I think it's highly probable that we will see some significant changes in the future as we go further into the season. But you never know. So it's kind of just a case of we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, good to know that discussions are going forward still, and they're still considering and talking. Though it's kind of hard to know from an outside perspective what they might be discussing and what everything is about there. So yeah. Pretty cool. Next story, where Red Bull have announced organizational changes to strengthen their technical leadership team. Of course, it's no surprise Red Bull has been struggling a little bit over the course of the past little while. So let's take a look at this Twitter post that they have posted here, which states that effective immediately Ben Waterhouse assumes an expanded leadership role as Chief Performance and Design Engineer, with overarching responsibility across design and vehicle performance. Essentially, I'm not going to read it all out because there's a lot, but essentially they're overhauling their technical organization and that section of their company. This, of course, comes off the back of several key figures at Red Bull leaving, including Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, Jonathan Wheatley, Rob Marshall, Will Courtney, and Craig Skinner, and all of them heading off to other all of them heading off to other sectors of the Formula One sphere. Of course, we also know that Gianpiero Lambiase will leave Red Bull for McLaren when his contract expires at the end of 2028. So certainly, I think there's been a lot of questions around Red Bull's leadership team and that kind of general direction there. So I think it's a positive that Red Bull is taking the changes that are necessary to kind of continue their climb back outside of the mid card, or the mid card. So yeah, next story, Colton Herta to take place in 4 FP1 sessions with Cadillac during 2026 season. I think looking into the future of Cadillac, if I had to guess, I think Colton Herta will probably end up jumping into that Formula One seat because he's quite the well-renowned driver. I haven't really been following his Formula One journey, or sorry, his Formula 2 journey specifically, just because I don't watch Formula 2, but I think he's been doing pretty cool, and he's going to make his debut in Barcelona, Catalunya, which is still quite a while from now, I think it's towards the end of the year. Yeah, I think it's good for Colton. I think Colton is the future of that Cadillac team, because I think it's safe to say that Perez and Bottas, whilst they have a couple years in them, I don't think that is a long-term proposition necessarily, but we'll see how they go. So yeah, obviously I wish Colton nothing but the best. I'm interested to see how he goes in that Formula One car. So yeah, so for our next story, let's talk about today's breaking news, which is refinements to 2026 F1 regulations have been agreed to by all stakeholders. That's right, I kind of tricked you earlier, I apologize. Yes, essentially new regulations have been agreed to. This is a story that just came out today, 12 hours ago. So this is the first time I'm seeing this as well, so we will be discussing it together. Wow. So, a number of refinements to the 2026 F1 regulations have been agreed upon during an online meeting between the F1 governing body, the FIA, team principals, CEO of power unit manufacturers, and the FOM, which is the Formula One management team, essentially, on Monday. And let's see what these, hopefully they actually say what these proposals are. Here we go. So, qualifying, we'll go over them one by one. Qualifying is, they are aiming to promote performance, they say here, with adjustments to energy management parameters, including a reduction in maximum permitted recharge from 8 megajoules to 7 megajoules. This was one thing that had been discussed previously, and I think it's a good change. Just essentially, it's aimed at reducing excessive harvesting and encouraging more consistent flat-out driving, which was a major concern during things like qualifying and made it quite difficult, so I think that's a positive change. And it targets a maximum superclip duration reduced to approximately 2 to 4 seconds per lap, which I think is a positive. Peak superclip power increased to 350 kilowatts, previously being 350 kilowatts, which is further reducing the time spent recharging and reducing driver workload on energy management. This will also be applied in race conditions. So these two rules, a lot of them have been using kind of fancy schmancy words, but you don't know what any of this means. Basically, all of this is aiming at reducing the amount that drivers have to harvest, which has been a obviously serious concern with from the drivers and from a racing perspective. So that's a major positive there. The number of events where alternative lower energy limits may apply has been increased from 8 to 12 races, allowing greater adaptation to circuit characteristics. So yeah, for the race, they are aiming to improve safety and consistency of performance, with the maximum power available through boost in race conditions now being capped out at 150 kilowatts, or the car's current power at activation if higher, limiting sudden performance differentials. So essentially, they're trying to limit the whole thing where a car could jump ahead and then be instantly jumped over, is what I'm understanding from that. MG UK deployment is maintained at 350 watts in key acceleration zones, from corner exit to braking point, including overtaking zones, but will be limited to 250 kilowatts in other parts of the lap, which I think is another positive. They're trying to limit the amount of places that people can overtake at. Fair enough. And overall, they say here that these measures are designed to reduce excessive closing speeds while maintaining overtaking opportunities and overall performance characteristics. And overall, all of this, to me, is an extreme positive. Obviously, we've seen a lot of concerns around safety and around the levels of harvesting and around energy deployment and overtaking viability. And all of this, to me, reads as them implementing positive changes to try to try to improve that. So I think this is overall a positive. And I'm happy and I'm excited to see how it is in Miami, if it makes a massive difference. So we'll have to wait and see, but that's extremely exciting. But we're not done yet. Let's talk about race starts with enhanced safety mechanisms. A new low power start detection system has been developed, capable of identifying cars with abnormally low acceleration shortly after clutch release. In such cases, an automatic MGUK deployment will be triggered to ensure a minimum level of acceleration and mitigate start-related risks without introducing any sporting advantage. What that essentially is reading to me is that cars will have the ability to essentially gain a little bit of enough power to get them off the line so that we don't get cars essentially stalling on the line, which can be extremely dangerous. So yeah, an associated visual warning system is being introduced, activating flashing lights, rear and lateral on affected cars to alert following drivers, which is also just safety stuff, which is really great. A reset on the energy counter at the start of the formation lap has also been implemented to correct a previously identified system inconsistency. That's just a back house thing, which is cool. And obviously wet conditions, I don't think we've seen we haven't seen a wet race yet this year. So I'm curious to see how that goes whenever that happens. But it will of course be improving safety and visibility with tire blanket temperatures for intermediate tires being increased, following driver feedback in order to improve initial grip and tire performance in wet conditions. Maximum ERS deployment will be reduced, limiting torque and improving car control in low grip conditions. The rear light systems have been simplified with clearer and more consistent visual clues to improve visibility and reaction time for following drivers in poor conditions. These final proposals will now be put on the following Motorsport Council e-vote before their planned implementation. So I think these rules and regulations changes are all major positives. I don't read anything here that could be problematic, though of course I'm not the most technical expert when it comes to Formula One, but I think this is all an extreme positive. One thing that I've just read now that I didn't realize is these are not being implemented in Miami, but they're being put up to being voted for. I'm assuming they will be implemented because I don't see why they would vote against them, but we will have to wait and see. And yeah, these are all of the changes that they have agreed upon and that they're planning to implement, and I think they're all really good changes. So massive thumbs up to the Formula One. Good job for implementing all of these changes. I'm excited to see how this changes the race in Miami and into the future, and if teams like Merck still have the same level of dominance. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Let's talk about our final story. This doesn't directly relate to Formula One, but it's something that I wanted to discuss briefly. And well, not briefly, but you know what I mean. This, of course, comes off the back of racing driver Juha Miettinen, apologies if I'm mispronouncing that, who was sadly and tragically killed in a tragic Nuremberg crash. This involved 6 cars during one of the qualifying races, where several were injured, and unfortunately Juha was killed in the crash. And yeah, obviously massive condolences go out to the family and to everybody affected by this tragedy. I hope that they're all doing as well as they possibly can, and this is just extremely sad. It's not really much for me to say other than it's always a tragedy when stuff like this happens. It's certainly less common in the modern day, but you know, racing is always an inherently dangerous thing. So yeah, R.I.P. Juha. I think Max Verstappen put a comment out about it on Instagram as well. And yeah, my condolences go out to just everybody, all of the family and everybody involved. It's, yeah, just very sad. And yeah, not much else to talk about there. I just thought it was worth mentioning. So yeah, that's it. So that was this week in Formula One. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have anything that I missed or anything that I might want to cover next week in This Week in Formula One, leave it in the comment section down below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment and all that other YouTubery stuff if you can. I would greatly appreciate it. And I hope you have a great, wonderful day. So bye for now, guys. Peace.